Okay, everybody, we are live at the Plains Fame Air Museum out here in Chino, California, ready to watch the F-4U 1A Corsair start. Our presentation by Jim Llano is going to give us our presentation. All right, take it away, Jim.
Good afternoon, everyone. It's a pleasure to have you here for our second flight demo of the day with our Corsair F-4U 1A. Your pilot today is Chris Fahey. We are delighted to have Chris. He's been a long time friend of the museum. He is a warbird pilot. He pilots not only our Corsair, but our P-38 and our MiG as well. Chris served in the United States Air Force from 1983 until 1995, flying F-16s, and Chris is now a commercial pilot. So we're very pleased to have Chris today as our Corsair pilot. Now, just a few words on the Corsair before Chris takes off for his demo. The Corsair history goes all the way back to the early 1938, when the U.S. Navy put out a request, an RFP, request for proposal for a single-engine airplane, and they had criteria, 4 things that they wanted. They wanted the airplane to fly 1,000 miles. They wanted a landing speed no faster than 70 miles an hour, 4 guns, and maximum speed. In June of 1938, the Navy awarded Sorry for that interruption, folks. So, in June of 1938, the U.S. Navy awarded Chance Vought out of the East Coast an award for a prototype airplane to be developed. So what Chance Vought did in order to achieve maximum speed, they chose a brand new prototype engine, which is the R2800, which was capable of 2,000 horsepower. In order to maximize the horsepower in that engine, they chose a Hamilton propeller, 13 feet 4 inches, a massive propeller for the day, a massive engine. They also developed some new technology with the plane. If you look at the fuselage, you do not see rivets. Chance Vought went with a new technology, TIG welding, on a little bit thicker of aluminum. What that enabled the airplane to do was reduce drag, making it a little bit faster of an airplane already with this R2800 engine. Now the challenge, this was a Navy airplane. It was required to land on an aircraft carrier. And landing on an aircraft carrier requires a little bit slower speed. It requires the pilot to have great visibility. And what the challenge was the landing gear with this high propeller. In order to maintain that higher position with that propeller, the challenge was to maintain a smaller landing gear. What Chance Vought did was raise the fuselage, maintaining a lower profile with the wing, and you end up with this gull wing design, okay? Now that also provided a challenge. And in development going on with the Navy, which began then in 38 through 1941, there were some challenges. Number one, with this massive propeller and prop wash, it created a bit of an uneven airflow over the wings and over some of the controls. There was a tendency for the left wing to stall prior to the right wing. The other, with this massive engine, if a pilot suddenly applied throttle, there was a tendency for the plane as well to perhaps flip. And this is not what you want as you come in for a carrier landing. The other was the original prototype and the original production plane had a canopy that was a birdcage rather than this bubble canopy that you have. And the fuel tank is right in front of the pilot, 240 gallons. You're a long distance from that nose. So the challenge was how to make sure that this was tested by the Navy. And all these challenges by the fall of 1942, the Navy had decided not to go forward with the Corsair. They went with the Hellcat. So the Corsair went to the Marines, and it was used extensively in the South Pacific and also in the Central Pacific. In the South Pacific, it was used particularly in an operation called Cartwheel in 1943, 1944, as Allied forces tried to retake the Japanese-occupied islands, particularly Rabaul, which was a Japanese air base. So we know that this plane was actually involved in some of those squadrons that flew missions during that time. Also, the plane was used in the Marshall Islands in the Central Pacific as well. The plane not only went to the Marines through land lease, you might remember through your history classes in high school, there were 2,000 of these that went to the Royal Navy, the British Royal Navy. So they had the same problems with the airplane. However, they were in dire need of planes. They used them. They also suffered losses with their pilots. The plane had the nickname of the Instant Eliminator, the Bedouin bird eliminator. But it was the British who came up with the idea of raising the seat 7 inches. They eliminated that bird nest canopy, went to the bubble. They also developed a technique of approaching the aircraft carrier in a wide circular approach. So the pilot always had that back end stern of the aircraft carrier in sight. Flagmen would then wave them down. That technique was then adopted ultimately by the Navy. The Navy, by the fall of 1944, accepted the Corsair, and it was just in time. This was during the Battle of Okinawa, and the Corsair was extremely valuable then in going against the Japanese Zeros at that time. A bit of information on our own airplane. This is the oldest Corsair. Ours was built in 1943 out of about 12,500 that were built. There's only around 12 left flying in the United States. This is one of them. And this plane also is a movie star. How many of you have seen the movie Devotion?
Heck yeah.
Okay, great. Excellent movie, wonderful movie based on the book, came out in 2015 by Adam Makos. The plane, as I mentioned, came out in 43, was used by the Marines. What you're seeing is a color scheme used by the Navy during the Korean War, this beautiful blue. It was also used in the television series Baba Black Sheep during the 1970s, I believe, and then has been in some other feature films as well. Another point that is special about this airplane is not only is it a veteran of World War II, but we've been able to identify and reconnect 2 pilots that actually flew this airplane. Both of them were in the Central Pacific and the Marshall Islands era in the summer of 1944, Farrell Purdy and John Tishijian. Farrell Purdy lived in Missouri, and it was just serendipitous that the museum was able to make a connection with him. Through donations from the city where Farrell Purdy lived, the plane was flown back a few years back and reconnected with that pilot. He had a ritual that he had before each mission. He would go up and tap the belly of the airplane. By that time, he was in a wheelchair, but his family wheeled him to the plane, and he went again and touched the belly of the airplane. The other pilot, John Tishijian, celebrated his 100th birthday here 2 summers ago. He turned 100, and this is where he wanted to be. We were not only able to get him in the airplane, ladies and gentlemen, but he was able to fly. again in the airplane that he had flown as a 23-year-old in the Marshall Islands. So with that, Chris, all yours. We'll have a Q&A with Chris when he returns, and when Chris rounds the hangars, we're going to have our raffle for the members.
Awesome. All right, everybody, we're going to see the F-4U Corsair start up with Chris Fahey in a few minutes. Let's get in the aircraft ready. There he goes. Oh. Oh. Oh, wow. I am so sorry, folks.